Field's last episode in a series of videocasts that explores how to sustain delivery of a product offered in the Asset Building Through Credit program over the long haul, once the pilot period's ended. Now, the product offered during the pilot was a secured credit card teamed with credit coaching, and in these videocasts, you're hearing about how we worked with the Mission Economic Development Agency to explore these issues of sustainability. In this last episode, you'll get a flavor for some of our work around costs and the fun world of cost accounting. This was probably the place where MEDA had its biggest aha moment, and that really helped inform their projections going forward. Now, in working on this issue of how to identify a sustainable business model for a product or service, we used a tool called the Lean Canvas. If you've seen our previous videos, you'll know that we're working on this bottom left portion of the canvas, which is a section that focuses on program costs. But first, we did a bit of reading during our exploration of this cost issue, and this quote struck us as a true challenge among many nonprofit organizations. Although information about revenue is usually fairly solid, organizational knowledge about costs tends to be weak. Now, the reason that this is usually the case is that accounting systems that most nonprofits use don't allow them to track and allocate costs effectively at the product or program level. Since we knew from the beginning of the pilot that we wanted to look at this question of costs and sustainability, Field collected both timesheet and financial data throughout the pilot phase of the secured card program. You'll see the importance of creating tracking mechanisms to collect real cost data so that you have a baseline of information to work from. First, we had MEDA go through a cost accounting exercise based on the data we'd collected during the pilot to get a sense of their efficiency in serving clients during the pilot period. One way we looked at efficiency was by helping them calculate their cost per client served. Now, this looks at the total full cost of the program, including direct costs like staffing and marketing dollars, as well as indirect costs like overhead. And we divide that by the number of clients served during the year. For MEDA, we estimated $874 over a 12-month period to deliver the secured card to one client. The key factors driving their costs were staff hours and overall client volume. To break it down simply, the fewer clients they served and the greater number of hours spent coaching or marketing to the clients, the higher the cost per client. Seeing this was pretty eye-opening. As you can see here, MEDA spent a lot of time at the outset of their programming finding the right channels. They spent an average of 10 hours per client just on the marketing of the product, on top of the average of 13 hours per client working with clients over the year. And most of that training happened at the onset of the program. When we looked at this data together with MEDA, they realized they had to think critically about where they could gain efficiencies in marketing of the program and also how much time they spent meeting with clients. An interesting thing to note was that as Field analyzed the outcomes for the program, one of the things that we looked at was the relationship between the number of hours a client received of training and the increase to their credit scores. So we wanted to understand whether more hours of training resulted in better outcomes in terms of scores and good payment behaviors. Interestingly, we didn't find that there was a strong relationship between the number of hours received and the score. Just because certain clients received a lot more training didn't mean that their scores improved dramatically. This analysis helped MEDA think through about how many hours to spend per client, which is critical to understand not only for the obvious reasons of wanting to create solid impact for the program, but also in terms of how to make the program efficient and sustainable over the long run. And it was pretty shocking calculating the costs at that per client level. The feedback we heard that it was really forcing them to think about the time they were spending on critical aspects of the program, which are marketing the program and then coaching and supporting those clients. After they saw and thought about this number, MEDA wanted to be audacious. They thought they could cut that number in half. In the initial run of the pilot, they identified the best channels to tap. They knew where the right people were coming from for the program. Their experience from the pilot phase also informed their efforts to introduce some efficiencies in the training. They knew how to deliver the content, and they thought they could be more strategic with their follow-up. So, for example, MEDA introduced a text messaging strategy that sends reminders to clients about the credit-building messages that they wanted to instill during critical periods in the process. The text replaces a phone call or other more expensive forms of contact with the client. They also decided to capitalize on a time frame when they see a high volume of clients who might be well suited for the card during tax time, and when people might have money available to put down for the security on the credit card because they're receiving a refund. It's what we call a very teachable moment. And so you can see here that as MEDA developed plans for continuing the program, they projected serving 200 clients over a year's time, spending an average of 7.5 hours with them in terms of coaching over the course of a year, and estimated they could drastically reduce the time marketing because the channels they were going to use were very targeted. So far, so good for MEDA. They've continued offering a secured credit card with the local credit union. Volume is up, and they're tracking data to help them understand whether they're meeting their projected goals. So this process of working through the numbers and cost structure as part of the Lean Canvas helped them improve their process and ultimately their impact. We hope that you've gotten a flavor for some of the content of Field's white paper on business models. For the full detailed exploration, you can also download the publication at Field's website at www.fieldus.org.